which brings us to our three heavy hitters here on the stage. So we have Bev Murray with Berkshire Hathaway. And you know what? I'm just going to kind of change it a little bit and I'll have each person kind of give a little intro. I know you guys received the flyers, but if you're like me, you maybe didn't read it, you just looked at the photos. So I'll let everyone kind of give a little spiel of not just what they do, but also why we're talking about the Gulf Coast of Florida in particular. Because what we're going to talk about applies to the investment journey for anywhere. But particularly the Gulf Coast of Florida is a hot market, has been for a long time. The state in particular, built on tourism, that's the lifeblood of the state. So having each one of you maybe kind of just give a little spiel on, you know, from your perspective, why here, why now, and all that. So Bev?
Sure. Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Bev Murray. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices here in Sarasota. I have been here since 1999, so 25 years this year. We moved from London, and basically I got my real estate license as soon as we got off the boat. I really had nothing going for me other than my accent, because I didn't know anything about anything. But I found people very warm and welcoming and willing to take a chance on a young realtor with Michael Saunders. So from Michael Saunders, I ended up opening my own brokerage, had that for about 12 years. And then in 2017, I joined Berkshire Hathaway because it had really become obvious to me that I needed to have a powerhouse brand behind me to get the exposure for my clients and my listings and everything. So that's where I am currently. This whole thing came about because I personally like to deal with all kinds of real estate. I do have a lot of high-end clients, but I also like to get first-time home buyers their home. But, you know, we have a big second home market here. And we all felt actually, that there's a gap in the market in terms of people having the knowledge base and the points of contact for the important people and the important services that they need. So that's why we put all this together. I'm sure really for most of you, I don't need to kind of sell Sarasota to you. But I think it's worth noting that, you know, we have become, in the last few years, you know, Sarasota is firmly on the map. We are a phenomenal small city. We're no longer the poor cousins of Naples. You know, and our values now reflect that, that we are perceived to be a player in the Florida second home market. We get, you know, not only do we have people attracted to the beaches, but we have a huge source of income and for vacation rental expenditure on sports tourism with Nathan Benderson Park, the rowing, Premier Sports Campus, IMG. So there are a lot of reasons that people are coming here for short-term vacations. So therefore it's a great opportunity for people to, if they're considering purchasing or investing in a second home, that they can make money on.
Thank you. I know, I think let's do it geographically. So you came here via London. How about we do our next one from New York, right? So she's still like a Florida native, basically. So Joanne, you know, give us your spiel.
Thank you. I'm Joanne Kuntz. I am an attorney and CPA, and the chief reason I lobbied to have an insurance person here is so that there would be a topic more boring than mine, because I need the help wherever I can get it. I have been here 19 years, going on 20, and I literally came the day after graduation from law school because I realized that my husband was from Ohio and I couldn't live there, and I wanted to move back to New York and he couldn't live there, so I was like, the old people are onto something, we should move to Florida while we still look good in swimsuits. That's how we ended up here.
That's a good decision.
Yeah, and I was like somewhere between Tampa and Naples. North of Tampa is Alabama. The East Coast is what I left that I couldn't take him back to, so we really didn't have any choice, and we stumbled into Sarasota. My first law firm was immediately behind the cheetah. So you can see why I was, you know, love at first sight. Then I found downtown and the beaches,
Yeah.
and it was much better.
It is hard to beat that. And then, I don't want to be too biased here, but probably my favorite person on the podium, she so happens to be my CEO and boss as well, Heather Van Wee.
Hi. Hi, my name is Heather Van Wee. I am the president and CEO of the Cottages on the Key and also the Compass Collection. My business was started out of pure necessity. It started out of the housing crisis of 2008. I initially had a renovation and construction company, which died definitely during that time frame. And I had to recreate myself and try and save my home. And in doing so, I created a business methodology that allowed for short-term vacation rentals for Siesta Key in Sarasota. It was not very well known back then. It was very avant-garde. In 2009, to be renting your house out to strangers, Airbnb wasn't actually even in the US at that point. So yeah, that's how we got started, and we have been growing organically since then for the last 15 years. That's my history. I can tell you right now, the Cottages on the Key outperforms every other vacation rental management company by about 10 to 15% on the Barrier Islands and in the mainland of Sarasota. We will generate about 8 to 12% of an increase in revenue year over year for our owners. And we currently manage a portfolio of about $15 million for 80 owners. So that kind of gives you a breakdown of our standards. We're a luxury vacation rental company, and that's our niche, and that's what we stay in our lane for. And I would definitely tell you that you're in the right place if you're interested in having a vacation rental home and investing in it. The way to go, and I'm quite biased, I know, but I definitely have some statistics that will show that a professionally managed vacation rental home will earn 30% more revenue annually than a self-managed home. So this entire discussion is going to wrap and entail what that takes and what you will have to endure to get to that point, but it'll be worth it.
Oh, yeah. And I take great pride in that. You know, our company, over 300 reviews, 4.9 star on Google. You can't cheat that, right? So it takes a lot of effort and execution, and the culmination of these three on stage and our different connections and great professional rapport makes this a nice one-stop shop for that whole vacation rental process. So when we're talking about that process, there's really, you know, four components, I think, of the investment home journey that we wanted to touch on and let you guys share your expertise. And I think the first one is something we all naturally do, even passively, which is the search. I know just between my Instagram and my emails and my TikTok, there's a lot of algorithms that know that I'm always looking at investment homes, and I end up like just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So I think the search is probably the best part to start, or the best person to start with. That would probably be Bev, just because, you know, you're the realtor.
Right. So yeah, Zillow is a blessing and a curse, really. I think there are good things about it, but what is really evident to me is there's a lot of information and data missing on that. So and when it comes to searching specifically for an investment property, there is data that you need that you just can't get. So my role really is to save people time and hassle, and late nights when they should be asleep scrolling, and basically just trying to find first of all the properties that fit the criteria. The first criteria in real estate obviously is location, but actually equally important is municipal coding. So you will find, particularly on, say, Siesta Key, you'll find homes like 300 yards from each other that have completely different rules and eligibility for renting out. Obviously, if you can get something that's a minimum of 3 nights, that could potentially earn you much more than something that's a month or a week. So we would, based on criteria, I'm going to be looking for properties that are on market, but equally off-market that would make, in the right zones, in the right areas, that would make potential good investments. And an obvious place to start is a listing that is already rented out. And we would look at that, and you would take the revenue projection, which I can guarantee is not going to be as perhaps trustworthy and detailed as something that the Cottages of the Key is going to come up with. But what we do is we look at that and say, okay, well, this seems to be a decent performing rental. But what can we do to make it better, make it into an outstanding performing rental? And that could be things like, well, the outdoor space needs to be enhanced. You could put in a putting green or a tiki hut, or perhaps you need to install a little area where people can work from home. So we would look at that, and I say we because it's me doing the grunt work on the searching, but everything that I do is in conjunction with Heather's team, because Heather has the data. She can provide me with, if I go, hey, what about this house here? I want to approach the owner, and she'll be like, yeah, here's exactly the parameters. This is what the anticipated rental income will be. This is what you would, this is, if you made these enhancements, this is what it would, this is what it would perform at. So basically that's, where I work in conjunction with Heather's team.
And before I let you respond to that, I will say, like, even on a professional level right now, me and Bev have been in communication on a home that is, potentially coming on the market, and I'm helping provide her information on that. So, our company not being a realtor makes it an extra asset for different people of interest who are trying to find that information. So I know you talked about zoning and location, and then also location as important aspects for it. But Heather, when you're doing that search process, what are you bringing to the table?
Well, before I even get started on what I bring to the table, I think we have to go in reverse, because the very first step that every single investor should take, and if you're not doing it right now, you need to go in reverse, is talk about what Joanne can offer in the way of tax strategy, financial planning. That's the first thing that needs to be talked about. And then I think I would like to talk about my portion, because you won't even get to me until you go through these two lovely ladies. So Joanne, you got to take it.
The wonderful thing
Hold on
about
one second,
this.
Joanne. Are you okay?
To just add on to the point, all the write-offs you can use.
Oh, don't steal the thunder here.
No, come on up.
There's write-offs, what?
But not just the common stuff you see in the code, the stuff that in the business you can write off.
Yeah, absolutely.
What he's saying is I'm Italian.
Yes.
Doesn't show for my name, but no. So the interesting thing about the planning piece is no one is scrolling my website late at night. Like, there's nothing super sexy about legal and tax. And someone, actually one of my clients this evening said, "Why are you both?" And I said, "I just standardized test well." Like, there's really not like something you do on purpose, but here we are. So that being said, everything that we can accomplish, you can have the best search and you can buy the best property and get it at the best price. But if we pay less tax, that's like never, it doesn't matter how good of a job you do, less tax is always a great idea. I find that frequently my role seems to be that of Katie Couric, where I just give the news. And I'm like, well, here's how much tax there is. Whereas if we could get involved and plan ahead of time when you started scrolling, like, first stay up all night scrolling and then call me tomorrow. That gives you the most runway to make the plan. And the plan can be tax planning, the plan can be asset protection, the plan can be legal entity structure. So should I be an LLC? Should it be in a trust? Should the trust own the LLC? Do I need a 1031 exchange? These things, people start flying at me, and it's usually while they're under contract. So I sign the house, I sign the contract, I'm buying the condo, and now it's a mad scramble to figure out the structure and the tax. And that's doable, it's just not ideal. So if I could say, well, let's look at something like this, or, oh, you're buying something short-term and you're gonna have a bunch of them, maybe you qualify for real estate professional designation, and here's what you have to do to get that, and here's what it looks like. But if your mind is already at home inspection and what the kitchen looks like in the damn tiki bar, I don't know, there's so much talk about a tiki bar, I don't even have one, then it's really hard to focus on these things, because what I have is ministerial and mundane and horrible to discuss, but it's crucial to the plan. So the earlier we do it, the more effective it is, and the more reason there was to endure it.
So eat your vegetables first.
Right,
And
and then the brownie, I don't know,
Yeah,
like, it's
and
not that hard, but.
Brownie, I'm the brownie.
vegetables eaten, so now we get to talk about dessert, the fun, the revenue
All
side.
the fun, never
Everybody
mind.
loves to talk about vacations, right? Okay, so the savvy investor has discovered the area. Okay, that's who can say no to that? They have discovered Joanne. They have done their financial planning, their tax implication strategies. You know, they've done all that. They've met Bev, and they've gotten off of the Zillow scrolling, and now they've gotten more focused because they know exactly what they need. They know how it's going to affect their bottom line, and they know how that it's going to affect them personally. What they want to achieve, both personally and financially, is just as important. You can't take one without the other. Bev now knows exactly what you're looking for. So take away the doom scrolling and put Bev on top of it. She's going to sit there and tell you exactly what you need, because she's already worked with us a million times over. She knows exactly what to do. And she's going to narrow down your search. She's going to niche you out to your perfect stay-in-the-lane places that you need to go. That's going to make Joanne happy, make you happy. And then she's going to go ahead and bring me an investor that has met criteria. And then what I do is I take that criteria, and let's say she's narrowed it down to about 3 or 4 different properties. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to say, okay, what are your wants and what are your needs, and what are we dealing with in the sense of the criteria that is available to us? So I'm going to marry all of those together, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to say, what are the zoning issues, what are the location issues, and what are the amenities issues, and how we can make that as revenue producing top end as possible. And then that's when we get to the really good stuff, where we're going to give you a revenue projection on each of those homes. And then you can make a personal decision. That personal decision is going to be based on what your family wants, what you personally need financially, what Joanne suggests to you based on your current portfolio of assets and investments. So we'll get a little bit deeper into that, actually. I don't want to go too far, because we actually have case studies that I'm going to present at the end of our discussion, right before Q&A. So I'll give you some examples, and actually Matt will be able to do it better because he can see and I can't, because you guys... But yeah, so anyway, that's kind of like the part of the searching process of this journey, of this 4-part journey.
All right, awesome. So you can be, just a spreadsheet buyer that's looking at purely the numbers. You're buying 1 home, 2 homes, 10 homes. You want to use it half the year. You're putting together your plan with this crew. And then the fun part is happening. You're purchasing the home. So if you're purchasing the home, I guess, Heather, you talked about the revenue generation. What are we seeing in terms of, making that come to reality?
Okay, so during the purchasing process, we're going to generate those revenue forecasts that I was telling you about. You're going to make your decision, and then you're going to go for contract with Bev. What we're going to want to look at is, does that property already have rental history? If it does, we're going to use that during our forecasting period. If it's new to the market, we're also going to use historical representations from our own portfolio, and we have 15 years, and I guarantee you that there's not a single home that I haven't had on my portfolio that wouldn't represent what we're trying to accomplish here for our investors, right? I have a lot of history, so 95% of all my revenue projections are right on target. Accurate projections are definitely going to help you in the mortgage lending process. They actually heed that, especially when it's from a large-scale, professional management group. We're also going to provide estimates for costs associated with asset preservation. That's going to be important for you to know because, what we're going to focus on is your bottom line. That's not necessarily what you need in order to, purchase the property or go for lending or whatnot, but that's what you personally should have. You should understand that, and Joanne's going to want to know that as well. The other thing is we're going to want to know about amenities. So when it comes to vacation rentals, amenities are king, especially since the pandemic. Having a tiki bar and a putting green and a fire, like a fire pit and all these things. These are the differentiators between you and the next guy. They don't cost that much. You're going to get your money back. And we can actually do an analysis of how soon you will return that money back to you. And later on, we'll talk about how that helps in your appraised value when you go to exit. And then more importantly is you're going to fall in love with the home, and it's not going to be perfect because you fall in love with people and they're not perfect, but you still accept them, right? So you're going to fall in love with a home. It's not perfect, and you're probably going to want to do something to make it perfect, more perfect for you. The other thing is we, as a property management group at the cottages, are definitely going to also fall in love with your home, but we're also going to know like an additional room is going to add this much more cash flow value to you as rental income. So we're going to say to you, hey, this is a good idea. This is what you should do. So it's also good for us during the purchase process, not after. Remember, we're trying to be proactive, not reactive here, right? So prior to purchasing, you definitely want to know how much those construction and renovation costs are going to set you back and how soon you will recoup your money. So again, the Cottages on the Key works very heavily with Murray Homes. They are actually here right now. They are the ones that can provide that estimate for us right up front. And trust me when I say they're very, very exact in their costs. So it's a solid number to rely on. So here's the thing. Before you've even gone, you're in your contingency period. You haven't gone into total contract, right? You're a savvy buyer. You've got everything lined up. You know exactly what it's going to cost you. You go back to Joanne. You tell her all of this, and you say, and she says, yes, it pencils out, right? That's what you want, and you want a 5 or 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yes. So
Whatever I said was.
He's mad about the
He's mad about the tiki bar. Okay.
I don't think anyone gets mad about tiki huts. I would say that was very thorough. So when you're looking at that, that information, capital improvement, all that kind of stuff, that's probably a useful tool for Bev when you're coming to the negotiation table or, being boots on the ground, because right now we're talking about boots on the ground services to this prospective homeowner, right? So what's it look like on the actual purchase transaction side?
It's fairly straightforward. You've all purchased property before, but I think the first thing to say is that you don't need to be here for the process at all. The beauty of FaceTime and WhatsApp video is that, I've been able, and particularly through the pandemic, was able to help people buy and sell big and small properties via FaceTime because, I can go around and open whatever drawers you like, So that everything can be done digitally, so you don't need to be here. You can be involved or you don't have to be involved. It depends whether it's an emotional purchase that you're going to use or whether it's purely for investment purposes. But really, like with any purchase, my focus is to try and get the very best possible deal in any given market. So, and one of the ways that there's two ways that I do it. One is obviously we inspect it completely. Basically, we rely on those inspections to bring up a whole raft of important and non-important deficiencies that we then use to negotiate. Because ultimately, if I can get you $20,000 off for something that's really pretty much cosmetic, but because we've hammered away, they'll more likely to give it up. That's your tiki hut, right? And the other thing as well that I use cottages on the key for is if we have a rental property, a property that's already in a rental program, well, I'll use them and their expertise to pick holes in their revenue calculations, and then I'll just say, well, you say that it's, this is not adding up for us. It won't work with these numbers. We need to come down, that kind of thing. So.
That's good teamwork. Which brings us to Joanne. We've planned, we've done all the boring stuff, and you went from, insurance to probably working with, I imagine, the lenders and stuff at this point, right?
Yeah, so ideally, we'd like to have a look at the contract before you sign it. That's also aspirational and doesn't always happen, interestingly enough. You opened with maybe people didn't read the bios, but I would submit to you that often they haven't read the real estate contract that's already been signed. DocuSign is a blessing and a curse, man. But nonetheless, ideally, we would review the contract before it's executed. The contingencies are important, particularly if there is any question with due diligence with respect to zoning or what is permissible or what is, you can add the tiki hut, but will you get the zoning and building permission to do so? So sometimes there's those types of investigations that are beyond the typical home inspection. If you need time to create that LLC or trust or update it or find it, now is the time to be looking for that once we're under contract. What we don't want to do is put our friends, the lender, and our friends, the insurance agent, behind the eight ball where they're having to catch up because you tell them 2 weeks before closing that you intend to take title in an LLC and they've done all their underwriting in your individual name. That can cause problems with meeting the deadlines, which can jeopardize earnest money deposits or the contract in general. So there's a lot of that kind of heavy legwork that happens on the front end. We also handle the closing. We pull the title commitment, we do the search, we look to see what types of liens affect the property, what needs to be resolved so that you don't have a problem at the time you purchase, you don't have a problem while you own it, and you don't have any problems when you sell it. That is certainly something that everyone expects to go without any issues. When I find an issue, it's usually, this is not open heart surgery, so the good news is no one dies. It's usually a variance or some other legal document that we need to fix whatever the problem is in the public record. But oftentimes those things take time, so avoiding delay saves money. People have not invested in alternate housing or whatever the case may be if we can get ahead of these kind of delays. If we need time to execute 1031 exchanges and onboard qualified intermediaries, whatever it is that is the sophisticated part of the transaction for you is completely doable and just requires some time. So the sooner that we get out ahead of that and notify the people that need to be on the team, the more efficiently we can do that with the least amount of stress. And that way we are meeting our deadlines and not having any additional costs incurred.
No, that's great. That's, that's the whole point of why we're here, right? Enough prep work, talking to the experts, it saves us a lot of gray hairs.
Talking to the experts also helps because a lot of my friends are from other places, and I frequently hear the statement, that's not how we do it back in insert high tax, poor weather state you came from. So just like you don't have to shovel the snow like you did in New Jersey, you also don't close on a house the same way. So a lot of the procedural things are different, they're unfamiliar, and people do have a tendency to come in with the biases of their experience. And if this is the first time you've done it or the first time you've done it in a while, things have changed.
Amen. So you've got the purchase handled. Now we're getting to, I guess, the long game of it. No matter what your plan is, typically they're, 3, 5, 10, cradle to grave type of plans, depends on the person. We're looking at the hold, and I think the hold is really probably your meat and potato, Heather. We're talking about, revenue and the property itself, so.
Yeah, so from our perspective, it's our responsibility to make sure that during your hold period, that you hold it as long as possible, because that's very good for us. But but actually, no. I mean, it's basically two main components. It's going to be revenue generation and asset preservation. So those are the two most concerning issues during your hold period for your management group to take care of. So we focus on increasing revenue year over year. We push for 12% increases. So we want to make sure that your cash flow evolves along with the home itself over time. That's, that's dependent upon the type of property and the usage of that property. Depends on how often you want to use it. Sometimes that changes over the year. Sometimes one year you never use it. The next year you have, 14 weeks that you want to use, and that's your own personal needs. And we just kind of work through that, that revenue year over year is, as I was saying before, 8 to 12% typically. So the other thing is we want to operationally manage your home. We want to make sure that from an asset preservation standpoint, that the home will continue to appraise at the rate that it should. And that means that we have to take care of it from the foundation to the rooftop and everything in between. A professionally managed home will definitely appraise along and along much better than a home that is not professionally managed, unless, of course, you live in it yourself. Because all of you probably have primary residences and you know what it takes to manage your own homes. And being there is what matters the most, right? I mean, actually being present. When you're not capable of being present, who do you rely on? You can rely on a couple of people here and there, but honestly, you need people who have the resources and the connections and the actual sophistication to understand what a home takes. Anything from a condo complex to a mansion, okay? So they need to have that kind of sophistication. Another thing that is very important from asset preservation, but also from revenue generation, and therefore its appraised value year over year, is managing guest expectations. And I know that sounds kind of crazy to say that, but if you manage the guest expectations while they're in the home, you have what's on your hands is gold. Guest retention is gold. They will pay more for your home year over year because they know that you're taking very good care of it, and then you're offering them these little nuggets of wonderful value year over year, right? So you're going to continue to put more value into your home, you're going to update it, you're going to care for it, and so those guests are going to return. Our guest retention average is actually 35% across our entire portfolio. That is extremely healthy, and we do everything to maintain that. The most important thing, maybe, from Joanne's perspective, though, is what we call trust accounting. So trust accounting is a type of accounting methodology that is not required in the state of Florida. Not many managers, professional vacation rental managers, actually do trust accounting, but in other states in the U.S. it is required, and now it's kind of like it's a sign of good reputation and due diligence to actually perform this regardless of what state that you're in. So you want to make sure that the person that you're doing business with can offer trust accounting. This matters most over a 5, 10, 15-year holding period, and trust accounting means everything is transparent, it's open, it's reported, and you can have a historical review of extreme detail. We do trust accounting at the Cottages on the Key. I don't believe that there's another company that can say that in this area. But when you go back, and this is going all the way back to your ROI and the reasons why you started this from the very beginning, Joanne is going to be able to take these accounting details year after year, and her company is going to be able to make a lot more sense of it. She's going to have more access to details that will allow for her to give you what you need as your exit strategy becomes a situation. right? We're eventually all good things end, and you need to make sure that if your good thing ends, you end it on the right note, or you turn it over to your children, and it's a legacy situation at that point.
So you got the fun part that, Joanne gets to actually do. Instead of the boring legal stuff, you're going to talk about write-offs and all that, huh?
That's just it. So again, it's back to the plan. If we know what's going on, we can help advise how we'll categorize these things. I'm not saying don't buy the tiki bar. I'm saying how we depreciate it, whether we expense it, are we going to take bonus depreciation? All these things are going to affect not only this year's tax return, but we're looking at the tax planning for the ultimate sale. How do these things affect your basis? Are we doing a 1031 exchange? With that information, not only do we have the ability to plan, we also have the ability to save money because everything is in one place. The more you are organized and the more everything is centralized in terms of the accounting, the more deductions we take, the less tax you pay, because shockingly, I don't live with you all year, so I don't know what you spent the money on. And it's an issue of deductibility. If it's not there, we don't know to take it off the return. It also contributes to liability protection when we have commingling and you're paying from stuff from different accounts, whether we have the rental property in an LLC. If we do, we need to be paying for those expenses out of the LLC bank account. If we're not, and things are here, there, and everywhere, Morgan & Morgan, for the other people, are going to say, you're commingling, I can't tell the difference between you and the business, you shouldn't be protected like a business, and therefore we're going to pierce the veil and get inside the company and now attach to the property. So it is on several levels such an aggregating contribution to the financial and legal safety and stability and profitability of the company, of the property.
Yeah, it's a really cool combination of, revenue earned, expenses, how do you protect yourself, make it best, and all in the while, Bev's on the side here with her crystal ball, knowing exactly how it's going to appreciate and all of that, right? Right, Bev?
Yeah, I wish. So, yeah, I think ultimately, what I would be focused on along the journey is, general market updates. I do not have a crystal ball, otherwise I'd be very, very wealthy. But I have a generally good idea about what's going on. But, out of interest, when I was preparing for this, I looked at the appreciation rates for $1 million plus single-family homes on the Barrier Islands as opposed to the mainland. And for the 5 years prior to now, the appreciation, the increase in value for homes on the Barrier Islands is 27%. On the mainland, it is 7%. So you can reasonably expect that. Obviously, we had the pandemic. The values jumped hugely, but actually for Siesta Key, that figure over 10 years is a 20% increase in value. So you are in possession of an asset that will, given all things being equal, appreciate over time, and it's going to appreciate better on the Keys than it is on the mainland because everybody wants to be at the beach.
So homes appreciate better on the island and they pay more to rent there on the island?
Okay.
It's a pretty good combo there. So you have the purchase, you've held it for X amount of years. Then what? We have our exit, right? So, Bev, you just talked about the appreciation.
Yeah.
That's the benefit. What costs? I know there's a lot going on with different real estate commissions, so
Yep.
maybe you can do this for free and just tell us exactly the costs associated.
Yeah, so you may have heard that there's an issue with real estate commissions generally. It's a topic I could go into for another hour and happy to chat to anybody afterwards. But ultimately, at this point in time, we don't know what will actually happen. I think it's reasonable to expect that I don't think you're suddenly going to not be paying real estate commissions. I don't know any realtors who are going to be working for free. But the other thing is as well, I think that there are so many factors which I won't go into now, but I think let's say if you are paying 5 to 6% for professional fees when you're selling, I would say perhaps I would still factor that in, that amount in. Perhaps over time it'll decrease slightly, but I wouldn't go kind of, whooping and hollering just yet, because you have to create the demand and all that kind of stuff for your property. I also add in about another percentage point for miscellaneous closing costs, which Joanne would obviously give you to the dime. The one thing I would say, though, about the exit and lumping in with the general appreciation of your location is going to be buyers want well-maintained, good-looking homes, and they will pay a premium for them. So not only are you then going to be having another potential investor come in and purchase your unit, which we have all of the financials for in great detail, which will be superior to anybody else out there, but you're also going to attract buyers who want to use it for themselves, because they can just move right in. So there's a sort of little double edge to that asset increase. And there was one more thing, but it's totally escaped me.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have a turnkey home, oh, you remember it?
I know what it was.
Okay, yeah.
It was the fact that actually we saved you some money, hopefully, so you can I'm going to use the tiki hut again, put your tiki hut in. You will get the benefit of that again on the outset as well. So all those little amenities add up to the dollar value.
Yeah, it's turnkey, less barriers for the buyer, right?
Totally.
So it's kept up well. So Joanne, she's talking about doc stamps and probably, I don't know, 1031 or something. Do your stuff.
Numbers. Yeah, so when it comes to the cost of the sale, we have to look at the closing costs that you're going to pay at the table, and then we have to look at the tax implications. So you are going to pay documentary stamp taxes typically. It is customary that the seller would pay those on the sales price. It's $7 per thousand of sale price. So if it's $1 million home, it's $7,000 in doc stamps. That is a fee to the state. We don't have state income tax. That's how you have roads and cops. So that's not going anywhere. Other expenses are negotiable. Frankly, doc stamps are negotiable. Sometimes we throw those back on the buyer if we get a higher price. There's sometimes tax reasons to be creative with those things that affect basis. Again, all much easier to do with time. With respect to the taxes, if we're doing a 1031 exchange, the fees for the qualified intermediary to serve in that capacity are not outrageous. In a forward exchange, you're usually looking at around $1,500 or $2,000. A reverse exchange, where you're buying the replacement property first before you sell, those are more like $5,000 to $6,000 for those fees. But otherwise, the doc stamps are the big issue, the big ticket outside of commission on the closing statement. With respect to the taxes, the capital gains, if you've held it for more than a year, are going to be long-term. They're going to be taxed a portion at 0, a portion at 15, and if you get high enough, a portion at 20%. That's a flat rate. If you've held it for less than a year, that's going to be ordinary income rate, which is going to be your regular tax rate. So sometimes we do need to be creative. You don't want to pass up a good deal. If you're getting a number that is a crazy number and it's less than a year, we might want to run some scenarios to say, maybe we go under contract now and set the closing date out a bit. We can look at planning with installment payments and things like that to help assuage the taxes. But, that being said, time's the key. And a good bit of that planning can be done back up at the search standpoint. It doesn't have to be done as we're looking at closing. We can say, I'm going to hold this property until I hit X as my goal, and then I'm going to cash out, or until I'm X years old, or until I'm ready to move, or whatever the triggers are. Frequently, a fair amount of those scenarios can be forecast before you even finalize which property you're going to purchase. That helps keep the emotion out and keep the business in. The people who are buying on the ROI are typically more akin to that, rather than the folks who are saying, I'm buying this as basically an IRA I can use. I want to crash at the beach a little bit. I'd like somebody else to pay the mortgage payment and watch it go up in value. There's nothing wrong with any of these approaches, but they're all different. And so sometimes we do see folks have competing goals and objectives, and in order to meet them all the best, we need to have those kind of clearly identified. But with respect to, the other closing costs, nothing else is material in terms of, $100 for $250 now for a municipal, or for a estoppel letter from the association, those kind of things.
Yeah. So I know for, even in our experience, Heather, with some other homes that have been sold under our management and transition of ownership, the guests, the future bookings, the instant equity per se, that's involved with that. What's the property manager working with on the realtor with that?
So that can make certain sellers hesitate when they're in their exit mode. They might be a little cautious when it comes to that, thinking that they are dividing a potential buyer pool from one that is an investor who really does want rental income versus an end user or an end resident person. But in most cases, over the last 15 years, I can just give you my personal situations that I've endured with my clients. Most of the time, the property that you have bought, for your reasons, also it attracts the same like-minded type of buyer. So your strategies are aligned already kind of to begin with. In the case that they're not, honestly, when it comes to rental revenue, proven track record of rental revenue is always more enticing and provides more value. Even though an end user may not prefer to rent it, they still know that having past revenue means value in their home. Most of the time, if someone wants to purchase a property from you as the seller and they do not want future reservations on the book, there is a transition period that most people are willing to go through, and more scenarios can come to pass. Some of those scenarios can be dictated based on the real estate closing deal, and it is between buyer and seller. I would say that there are a multitude of different scenarios for that, and we actually have a master lease that we hold with the owner of the property that spells all that out and makes it very clean and simple, and gives many options. So if anyone is interested in seeing that, I can definitely offer that to you. I can talk you through that. I would say 9 out of 10 times, the fact that someone wants to purchase your house and they are going to be an end resident, end user, don't make that hesitate. Don't let you hesitate because of that, because your ultimate goal was to achieve the ROI in the end for yourself. The rest of the deal can be worked out. It can be worked out, and you can figure that out. Your exit strategy can definitely be figured out. Strategically, financially, through that prepping from the search stage. So.
No, I love that. So it's all encompassing. I think you mentioned you had some examples that we were going to share just to kind of go over. I'll give kind of the rundown on that.
Yes, you're going to have to help me because I can't see.
Yeah. Well, I can see and I know the home. So, this first home that you're seeing is an example of zoning making the difference on revenue. So this home here had a full exterior renovation. We gave them a whole game plan. Our operations manager, our marketing director, our revenue team said, hey, take this hardscaped home, add a putting green, a fire pit, do a new pool deck, all of these things that they added in. No tiki hut, but it does have a putting green. All of these things took this home from making about $70,000 to making closing out last year at just over $100,000 of rental revenue. So when you talk about return on investment, that is a for a monthly home to increase 40%, that's outstanding. Already has a huge following. That's a 4-bedroom home, but not 500 yards away, like you were saying, Bev. We have another 4-bedroom home that the zoning makes all the difference. So this home coming up that's about to be shown is just around the corner from the first one. It's a single-family home as well. It's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, so it's not even as many bathrooms. Just a pool, no putting green, but it's zoned weekly. And this home was self-managed, so not only did it increase naturally from being with a professional manager, it's also zoned weekly. So the amount of turn you can get, someone willing to pay $1,000 a night for 1 week is much higher than someone willing to pay $1,000 a night for a month. So getting that many guests that are willing to pay $1,000 a night for a week, and then another one, then another one, then another one, you see here it goes from about $170,000 of rental revenue to about $240,000 of rental revenue that it earned last year and is on track to make again this year. So both of these homes went through renovation on the interior or the exterior, went to professional managers, and are just benefiting drastically from that. And that's from utilizing, in fact, the mortgage group, Braun Mortgage Group was there for the lending for this property, actually, so they can tell you about that as well. These homes, both on the Barrier Island, I'm sure are appreciated, which Bev can, I'm sure, look up and give you the comps and the estimates on that. And then, Joanne, her expertise talking about, these investments are going to be deducted this way and that. So those are just 2 examples of many that we could talk about, but we still have about 10 minutes left, so I wanted, before we get a few more drinks and things, so I wanted to open this up to any questions, if anyone has any questions on anything.